victim of a shooting that night in the club, December 27th, 1999, shot in the face by Sean Puffy Combs. I was an innocent bystander.
Back with Moses Shyne Barrow, who served nearly 9 years in prison, stemming from that infamous nightclub shooting that changed his life forever. His co-defendant, Sean Combs, was acquitted.
Shyne has been trying to tell us about seeing Diddy Combs for years, but it seems like only now, with Diddy facing an avalanche of legal battles, people are finally starting to listen. And if you think this is just another story about a fallen music mogul, think again. This is about betrayal, power plays, and one of the most infamous moments in hip-hop history, the 1999 Club New York shooting. It's a story where everything you thought you knew might not be the whole truth.
You at this time?
I'm 42. I'm gonna be 43 next month.
And at this time with Diddy,
I was probably like 19.
19.
Yeah.
Let's start with Shyne Barrow, a name that might not ring as many bells today, but back in the late 90s, he was one of the hottest young rappers in the game, signed to Diddy's Bad Boy Records. Shyne was on the verge of stardom. He had that unmistakable Biggie-esque voice, and people were calling him the next big thing. But before his career could even take off, his world came crashing down. And according to Shyne, it's all because of Diddy. Shyne, who now goes by Moses Barrow and has transitioned from rapper to politician in his home country of Belize, has spent years reflecting on that fateful night in 1999. And in his new Hulu documentary, The Honorable Shyne, he's finally putting it all out there, telling the world exactly what went down and how he believes Diddy played him.
That point really stuck out. I never heard you say it.
Yeah.
That you were the fall guy.
Well, that's the interesting thing. I believe that, the power of Diddy, the entertainer, the person that dominated pop culture, was so loud for so long that no one heard myself and my mom and my supporters.
But let's backtrack a bit. The Club New York shooting was a turning point for both Shyne and Diddy. It was the night that changed everything. Shyne, Diddy, and Diddy's then girlfriend, Jennifer Lopez, were all at the club when an argument broke out and shots were fired. 3 people were injured, and while Diddy walked away from the incident without a scratch on his legal record, Shyne wasn't so lucky. He ended up being convicted on multiple charges, including assault and criminal possession of a weapon, and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. For years, Shyne has maintained that he fired his gun that night in self-defense, that he wasn't the aggressor, but rather someone trying to protect himself in a chaotic situation. He's always claimed that if he hadn't fired, he could have been taken out. But what makes this story even more interesting is Shyne's belief that Diddy, the man who was supposed to be his mentor, set him up to take the fall for the whole thing.
At the end of the day, I think he was not fleeing a crime scene. I think he believed that he was fleeing for his life.
In recent interviews, Shyne hasn't held back. He's spoken openly about the sense of betrayal he felt when Diddy, who could have supported him during his trial, instead distanced himself and, according to Shyne, even called witnesses to testify against him. Shyne, in a conversation with CNN, didn't mince words. Anyone that would send someone to jail deliberately is a monster. He feels that Diddy sacrificed him to save his own skin. And to be honest, Shyne's not the only one who thinks so. There's been growing speculation that Diddy orchestrated the whole thing to make sure he walked away clean while Shyne got stuck with the blame. One of the victims of the shooting, Nadania Rubin, has even testified that she saw Diddy with a gun that night. Yet somehow, despite this testimony, Diddy was acquitted. How does that happen? Well, according to Shyne and others, Diddy might have used his money and influence to manipulate the situation.
Okay, I can say I was at a girlfriend's house. We hung out for the holiday. My kids were spending Christmas with my grandmother.
In fact, Shyne has said repeatedly that if he had cooperated with the district attorney and testified against Diddy, things could have turned out very differently. Diddy could have turned out very differently. Diddy could have ended up behind bars, and who knows what that would have done to his career. But Shyne chose not to snitch. He kept quiet, thinking Diddy would have his back. Instead, he says Diddy threw him under the bus.
I personally know people who were paid for their silence. Personally. And that doesn't make me feel good, but I know they were.
Fast forward to 2012, 3 years after Shyne's release from prison. Diddy reached out to him, and the two met in Paris. It was the first time they had seen each other in over a decade, and Diddy apparently tried to make amends. But it wasn't enough. Shyne has said that Diddy offered him around $50,000 as compensation for the 10 years he spent in prison. Shyne's reaction: "You can't be serious," he told The Breakfast Club in a recent interview. To Shyne, that amount of money was an insult. After everything he had been through, after sacrificing his career, his freedom, and almost his life, $50,000 felt like a slap in the face.
But I think your fans in some way believe you were wronged, not just by the legal system, but also by the industry. So
Shyne's frustration with Diddy goes beyond just the shooting, though he's also been vocal about how he feels Diddy profited from his downfall. In Shyne's eyes, if it hadn't been for him taking the fall, Diddy wouldn't have gone on to become the billionaire mogul he is today. During his interview on The Breakfast Club, Shyne didn't hold back. If I would have cooperated with the district attorney, he'd have went to jail, and heaven knows what would have happened to his career. So that's worth at least a couple $1 million out of the $1 billion that you're worth. It's hard not to feel for Shyne. Imagine being a young artist full of potential, on the brink of success, only to have it all ripped away because of one night. And to make matters worse, the man you looked up to, the man who gave you your big break, is the one you believe betrayed you. Shyne has spoken at length about how difficult it was for him to rebuild his life after prison. He's talked about the emotional toll it took on him, how he felt abandoned by the industry, and how he had to find a new purpose in life after his music career was derailed. But despite everything, Shyne has managed to find a way to heal. He's forgiven Diddy, or at least he says he has. In interviews, Shyne has been clear that forgiving Diddy was more about freeing himself from the bitterness and anger he felt. He didn't want to carry that weight anymore, but just because he's forgiven, Diddy doesn't mean he's forgotten. In fact, Shyne's new documentary, The Honorable Shyne, doesn't shy away from addressing the pain and betrayal he felt. It's a raw and honest look at his journey, from the streets of Flatbush to a prison cell to the halls of the Belizean government. What's really interesting about Shyne's story is how it parallels Diddy's current legal troubles. As we know, Diddy has been hit with a series of lawsuits, and he's currently facing federal charges that could land him in serious trouble. While these charges don't have anything to do with the 1999 shooting, there's a growing sense that Diddy's past is finally catching up with him. People are starting to connect the dots to see a pattern of behavior that stretches back decades.
The defendants are charged with criminal possession of a weapon in the second degree and third degrees for the possession of loaded 9mm gun.
Shyne's story, in particular, seems to resonate more now than ever. When he first started speaking out about Diddy, a lot of people didn't want to listen. Diddy was at the height of his career, and many were quick to dismiss Shyne's claims as the bitter ramblings of a disgruntled ex-artist. But now, with Diddy facing multiple lawsuits and criminal charges, people are starting to take Shyne's words more seriously. It's as if the world is finally waking up to the possibility that Diddy might not be the untouchable figure he once appeared to be. In his recent interviews, Shyne has been careful not to revel in Diddy's downfall. He's made it clear that he doesn't take any pleasure in seeing his former mentor facing legal trouble. In fact, he said that he wouldn't wish prison on anyone, not even Diddy. But at the same time, Shyne can't help but feel a sense of vindication. After all these years, people are finally starting to believe him. They're finally starting to see that maybe, just maybe, Diddy isn't the hero they thought he was.
So yesterday, Monday, Diddy celebrated his 55th birthday, but this year was a lot different. It was no Diddy parties. It was none of that. None of that stuff. Well, happily so, I guess, right now. But anyway, so this is his first birthday behind bars.
One of the things that stands out in Shyne's interviews is how much he's grown since his time in prison. He's no longer the brash young rapper looking to make a name for himself. Instead, he's a thoughtful and reflective man who has found a new purpose in life. As a politician in Belize, Shyne is focused on helping others and making a positive impact in his community. He's used his platform to advocate for prison reform and to raise awareness about the struggles of people who, like him, have been caught up in the criminal justice system. But even as Shyne has moved on from his past, the shadow of the 1999 shooting still looms large. It's a moment that will forever be tied to both him and Diddy, and no matter how much time passes, people will always wonder what really happened that night. Did Diddy set Shyne up to take the fall? Was there more to the story than what we've been told? These are questions that may never be fully answered, but one thing is clear. Shyne's story isn't going away anytime soon.
Said, that Diddy snitched on me, that he threw me under the bus, and that I was a sacrificial lamb. But, that's 26 years ago.
26 years ago.
So people don't remember, and I have moved on. So you asked why. This is more of a celebration than, dancing on Diddy's grave or wanting to even connect myself.
In fact, with the release of The Honorable Shyne, it seems like this chapter of hip-hop history is being reopened for a new generation to examine. And with Diddy's legal troubles making headlines, Shyne's accusations are gaining more traction than ever before. It's a testament to the power of storytelling and the importance of speaking your truth, even when no one wants to listen. As we look back on the events of 1999, it's impossible not to wonder how things might have turned out differently if Shyne had made a different choice. What if he had testified against Diddy? What if he had cooperated with the district attorney? Would Diddy's career have been derailed? Would Shyne have been able to avoid prison? These are questions that will likely haunt Shyne for the rest of his life.
Charges against me are 100% false, and hopefully due to time, we'll start to see that. Thank you very much.
But despite everything, Shyne has found a way to turn his pain into purpose. He's rebuilt his life, and in many ways, he's come out stronger on the other side. He may never get the justice he feels he deserves, but in the end, he's learned to let go of the past and focus on the future. And as for Diddy, well, only time will tell what the future holds for him. But one thing's for sure, the world is finally starting to listen to what Shyne has been saying all along. And whether or not Diddy is ever held accountable for his actions, his legacy will forever be tainted by the events of that fateful night in 1999. But wait, let's not forget about the other major player in this story, Jennifer Lopez. She was right there that night, caught up in the whirlwind of chaos, alongside Shyne and Diddy. And while her involvement in the 1999 Club New York shooting has often been downplayed or even forgotten by some, it's impossible to ignore the fact that she was in the thick of it. So the big question is, what role did J.Lo play in all of this? And did she know more than she let on? At the time, Jennifer Lopez and Diddy were the hottest couple in the entertainment scene. They were everywhere together, on red carpets, in music videos, even attending the Grammys hand in hand. Their relationship was the stuff of tabloid dreams, and they were constantly in the public eye. But what most people didn't realize was that behind the glamorous facade, there was a lot more going on. Some sources have suggested that Lopez was in a pretty toxic relationship with Diddy, one where she was often put in uncomfortable and even dangerous situations.
I watched them, bow, bow, both of them fired, and the muzzle flash was like, psh, psh. Shyne's muzzle flash was a little higher. He was on the side closest to the bar.
Remember, this was during the late 90s when Diddy was at the height of his power. He wasn't just a music mogul, he was a cultural icon, and it seemed like everyone wanted to be in his orbit. But according to rumors, Diddy wasn't always the caring, attentive partner that he appeared to be in public. In fact, some people close to the couple have claimed that Diddy could be controlling and manipulative, and that Lopez often found herself in situations that made her question their relationship. One insider even told The Independent that Diddy would often have guns and large amounts of cash in the car when they were out together. Now, for someone like Lopez, who had never really been involved in that kind of lifestyle, this was a huge red flag. She was a good girl from the Bronx, as one source put it, and she wasn't used to being around that kind of danger. But because she was in love with Diddy and wanted to support him, she stuck around. And then came the night of the shooting. According to reports, the trouble started when Diddy accidentally spilled a drink on another clubgoer, Matthew Scar Allen. A heated argument broke out, and before anyone knew it, shots were fired. Lopez, Diddy, and Shyne were all caught up in the chaos, and when the dust settled, 3 people had been injured, including Natanya Rubin, who was hit in the face by a stray bullet.
Puffy's muzzle flash was a little lower, and he was on the side closest to where I was, straight ahead from me. I watched them both fire their guns. I watched them.
Lopez and Diddy fled the scene in a Lincoln Navigator, only to be pulled over by the police a few blocks away. A gun was found in the vehicle, and the couple was arrested. Lopez spent up to 14 hours in jail before the charges against her were dropped. But while she may have walked away from the incident unscathed legally, the whole ordeal left a lasting mark on her emotionally. In interviews years later, Lopez has alluded to being in relationships where she felt manhandled and disrespected. Though she's never named names, many believe that she was referring to her time with Diddy. She once told Essence that she had been in situations where the person she was with said they loved her, but their actions didn't match up. You have to hit rock bottom where you're in situations so uncomfortable and so painful, she said, that you finally go, I don't want this anymore.
I got hit right here, in my nose, in between my eyes, which means I'm facing directly at you. Just like I'm looking at you and I can tell you got on black shades.
Lopez's relationship with Diddy ended not long after the shooting, and while the official reason for their breakup has never been fully explained, many believe that the events of that night played a major role. After all, it wasn't just about the legal drama, it was about the impact the incident had on Lopez's image. She was an up-and-coming actress and singer with a squeaky clean reputation, and being associated with the violent nightclub shooting wasn't exactly great for her brand. In fact, some sources have suggested that Lopez's team, including her longtime manager Benny Medina, were instrumental in pushing her to distance herself from Diddy after the shooting. According to one insider, Medina was fiercely protective of Lopez and didn't want her getting dragged down by Diddy's legal troubles. Benny would have taken out Puffy if he'd laid a finger on Jennifer Lopez. The source told The Independent, and while there's no evidence to suggest that Diddy ever physically harmed Lopez, the fact that she was in such close proximity to the violence that night was enough to make her rethink their relationship.
And I watched him shoot me. So, not to digress, it always bugs me when people say, how can you be sure?
But even though Lopez eventually walked away, the legacy of the Club New York shooting has continued to follow her. For years, fans and the media have speculated about what really happened that night and how much Lopez knew. Did she have any idea that the man she was dating was capable of getting involved in something like this? And was she aware of the growing tension between Diddy and Shyne? Some have even speculated that Lopez might have been a key witness in the case had she chosen to testify. After all, she was right there when the shots were fired, and she likely saw much more than she's ever let on. But for whatever reason, Lopez stayed quiet during the trial, allowing Diddy to take the spotlight and Shyne to take the fall.
Conscious, I was fully aware. I looked to the side, and I saw this guy laying on the floor under the lip of the bar.
And speaking of Shyne, it's interesting to note that he and Lopez have never really addressed each other publicly, despite their shared connection to Diddy and that night in 1999. In fact, it seems like Shyne has always avoided dragging Lopez into the drama, even though he could have easily pointed the finger at her for being part of Diddy's entourage that night. Instead, Shyne has focused his anger and frustration squarely on Diddy, accusing him of betrayal and manipulation. But here's where things get even more interesting. As we mentioned earlier, Diddy is currently facing a slew of legal troubles, including charges related to misconduct and other serious allegations. And while these charges don't directly tie back to the 1999 shooting, they do paint a picture of a man who has been dodging accountability for years.
100%. I'm 100% sure. I'm 100% sure. I'm 1,000,000% sure.
Some fans and critics alike are now starting to wonder if Diddy's behavior in recent years is part of a larger pattern that dates back to his early days at Bad Boy Records. Could it be that the same manipulative and self-serving tendencies that led him to allegedly throw Shyne under the bus in 1999 are the same ones that have gotten him into trouble today? It's hard not to draw parallels between the two situations. In fact, some fans have been quite vocal about their thoughts on Diddy's downfall in the comments section of YouTube videos and social media posts. One fan commented, "I always knew there was something shady about Diddy, and now it's all coming to light. Shyne was right all along." Another user chimed in saying, "Diddy's been getting away with too much for too long. It's about time karma caught up with him."
And trust me, everybody else knew what happened too. You know how many people in the club were talking about this all around New York? Everybody knew he did it. Everybody knew he did it.
It's clear that public perception of Diddy is shifting, and for many people, his involvement in the 1999 shooting is just the tip of the iceberg. With all the new allegations coming out, it seems like more and more people are starting to believe that Diddy has been hiding behind his wealth and power for years, using his influence to escape accountability. And let's not forget about the ongoing FBI investigation into Diddy's business dealings, which is rumored to be uncovering some pretty shocking details. While we don't know the full extent of what the FBI has found, there's no doubt that Diddy's empire is starting to crumble. And as more information comes to light, it's becoming harder and harder for him to maintain the carefully crafted image he's built over the years.
What prosecutors are arguing is not only does your client pose a flight risk, because obviously he's incredibly wealthy, has access to planes and a lot of staff, even though you said he turned over his passport to you months ago, they were also worried about him being able to interfere with witnesses and calling them.
So where does this leave Jennifer Lopez? Well, for now, she's remained largely silent on the matter. She's moved on from her days with Diddy and has built a successful career in both music and film. She's even happily remarried to Ben Affleck, and by all accounts, she's living her best life. But as Diddy's legal troubles continue to unfold, it's likely that Lopez will once again find herself in the spotlight, with people questioning her involvement in the events of 1999 and whether she knew more than she's ever let on. One thing's for sure, the story of the club New York shooting is far from over. As Diddy's empire continues to unravel, more secrets from his past are likely to come to light. And with Shyne's documentary, The Honorable Shyne, bringing fresh attention to the case, it's clear that this chapter of hip-hop history is still being written.
So this is not just my word. They just had the power, the influence, and the money to get around town and shut people down and pay them for their silence.
Will Diddy finally be held accountable for his actions? Will Lopez ever speak out about her time with Diddy and what she witnessed that night? And how will Shyne's story continue to evolve as he steps further into the public eye, not as a politician and leader in Belize? Let us know in the comments. We want to hear your thoughts on this unfolding scandal.